When family traditions become weapons of humiliation, sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away until love finds a way to heal what was broken. The soft notes of Debussy's Clair de Lune drifted through the pediatric ward's break room at Massachusetts General Hospital, each delicate phrase carrying the weight of a child's concentrated effort. Dr. Jennifer Wilson glanced up from her patient files, her heart swelling as she watched her 8-year-old daughter, Emily, navigate the complex passage with fingers that barely spanned an octave. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Jennifer whispered, not wanting to break the spell of music that had become Emily's sanctuary since her father's death 3 years ago. Emily's shoulders tensed slightly, the same response she developed to unexpected sounds or voices since the accident. The piano had become her safe harbor, the one place where the tsunami of grief couldn't reach her. Through the examination room's tall windows, Boston's skyline painted itself in shades of amber and rose as evening approached, the city's rhythm a stark contrast to the gentle melody filling the small room. "Dr. Wilson?" Sarah from reception appeared in the doorway, her expression apologetic. "Your mother's online too. Something about the wedding arrangements." Jennifer felt her jaw tighten involuntarily. Rachel's wedding. 2 weeks away and consuming every family conversation like a beautiful, demanding beast. She reached for the phone with reluctance, her wedding ring, the one she still wore, catching the light. "Jennifer, darling, you absolutely must come to the final dress fitting tomorrow." Martha Wilson's voice carried that particular tone reserved for discussions about Rachel, equal parts excitement and careful management. "The seamstress needs to see everyone together." "Of course, Mom. Emily and I will." "Oh, well." The pause stretched like a held breath. "Actually, dear, there will be rather adult discussions about the ceremony details. Perhaps Emily could stay with." "Emily is my daughter, Mom." Jennifer's voice carried the steel that had gotten her through medical school, residency, and single motherhood. "We're a package deal." The silence on the other end spoke volumes about Martha Wilson's internal struggle between her desire to accommodate Rachel's preferences and her awareness that Jennifer had already sacrificed too much for family harmony. "Of course," Martha finally conceded. "Just, you know how important this is to Rachel. It's her special day." After hanging up, Jennifer found Emily watching her with those too perceptive dark eyes that had learned to read adult emotions far too early. "Are we going to look at pretty dresses tomorrow?" Emily asked, her voice carrying hope tinged with wariness. "We are," Jennifer smiled, pushing away her concerns. "And afterward, maybe we'll get ice cream. Just the two of us." Emily's genuine smile was worth every future uncomfortable conversation with her family. The Wilson family home in Beacon Hill stood like a monument to old Boston money, its federal-style architecture and perfectly manicured gardens speaking of generations who'd never questioned their place in society's hierarchy. As Jennifer and Emily approached the heavy oak door, Jennifer noticed the gleaming Mercedes parked alongside her father's Volvo. The Thompsons were already here. "Remember, Em, you don't have to talk if you don't want to." Jennifer squeezed her daughter's small hand. "Just stay close to me." The drawing room buzzed with the energy of wedding planning in its final, frenzied stages. Rachel, radiant in the way only brides-to-be can manage, was surrounded by fabric samples, invitation mock-ups, and the kind of barely controlled chaos that comes with orchestrating a 200-person celebration. "Jennifer, Emily." Elizabeth Thompson rose gracefully from the damask sofa, her smile warm despite the surprise in her eyes. The Thompson matriarch was everything the Boston social pages claimed: elegant, philanthropic, and possessing that rare ability to make everyone feel both welcomed and slightly inadequate. "Mrs. Thompson," Jennifer nodded respectfully. Elizabeth's work with children's educational charities was legendary. Her annual galas raised millions for underprivileged youth. "Please, it's Elizabeth. We're going to be family soon." Her gaze settled on Emily with genuine kindness. "And this must be our little musician. I've heard such wonderful things about your piano playing." Emily managed a shy smile, pressing closer to Jennifer's side. "Oh, Em, you have to see this." Rachel's voice cut through the room's polite murmur. She gestured excitedly at the ornate table where wedding invitations were displayed like precious artifacts. "Aren't they gorgeous? Hand calligraphed, gold leaf edges, imported paper from Italy." Jennifer dutifully admired the invitations, while Emily traced the elegant script with her eyes, her musical mind perhaps hearing rhythm in the flowing letters. Actually, Rachel's voice took on a conspiratorial tone. I've been thinking about Emily's role in the ceremony. The room seemed to pause, as if sensing a shift in atmospheric pressure before a storm. Her role! Jennifer's mother instincts sharpened to a fine point. Well, she's too old to be a flower girl, obviously. But I thought, wouldn't it be charming if she had a special position? Something that would make her feel included but also useful. Elizabeth Thompson's expression didn't change, but William shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his businessman's intuition perhaps detecting the same undertone Jennifer felt but couldn't yet name. What did you have in mind? Jennifer asked carefully. Rachel's smile was brilliant, the kind that had charmed teachers, professors, and now her wealthy fiancé. I'll save it as a surprise. But trust me, Em will love it. Won't you, sweetie? Emily nodded uncertainly, not understanding that she'd just agreed to her own humiliation. The Langham Hotel stood like a palace on the Boston waterfront, its Italian Renaissance facade glowing in the late afternoon sun. Jennifer held Emily's hand as they approached the entrance, both dressed in their finest. Jennifer in navy blue silk, Emily in a light pink dress that made her look both angelic and achingly vulnerable. Mom, what if I mess up the piano piece? Emily's voice was tight with anxiety. You won't, Jennifer assured her. But even if you hit a wrong note, nobody will care. Music is about feeling, not perfection. The hotel's interior was a shrine to Gilded Age luxury, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and enough flowers to stock a small garden. As they entered the main ballroom, Jennifer felt the weight of 200 pairs of eyes, the cream of Boston society gathered to witness the union of old money, the Thompsons, and new money, the Wilsons, though new was relative when it dated back 3 generations. Jennifer! Emily! Over here! Martha's voice carried across the room, pitched to project warmth while signaling exactly where they belonged in the evening's hierarchy. The place cards were works of art themselves, thick cream cardstock with names written in the same flowing calligraphy as the invitations. Jennifer found hers quickly. Dr. Jennifer Wilson, at a table with family friends and her parents. She began scanning for Emily's card, expecting to find Miss Emily Wilson nearby. Emily found it first. The blood drained from Jennifer's face as she read the elegant script. Child server. Mom! Emily's voice was barely a whisper, confusion and dawning humiliation warring in her dark eyes. What does this mean? Before Jennifer could respond, Rachel appeared beside them, resplendent in white silk and satisfaction. Oh, you found your special card, Em. Isn't it exciting? Rachel's voice carried across the nearby tables, drawing attention like a magnet. We decided to have special servers for the children tonight. It'll be such fun. Emily gets to help serve the other young guests. Like playing restaurant. The words hit Jennifer like physical blows. Around them, she became aware of laughter, polite, society laughter that said, "How amusing and how creative," while Emily's face crumpled like a flower touched by frost. Surely you can't be serious. Jennifer's voice was deadly quiet. Oh, but I am. It's a wonderful tradition. The children learn responsibility while contributing to the celebration. Rachel's smile never wavered, but her eyes held a glitter that spoke of old resentments and new power. More laughter rippled through the crowd. Jennifer's own parents, her father George's chuckle and her mother's delighted clap, felt like betrayal sharp enough to draw blood. Emily's tears came silently, the way children cry when they're too shocked to make sound. We're leaving. Jennifer's words cut through the laughter like a blade. What? Jennifer, don't be ridiculous. The ceremony hasn't even. We are leaving. Each word was pronounced with surgical precision. Jennifer took Emily's trembling hand. Come on, sweetheart. Jennifer! Rachel's voice rose to a pitch that would have been unseemly at a quieter gathering. You can't just leave. This is my wedding. Jennifer turned, and in that moment, every person in the ballroom saw exactly what 3 years of single motherhood, professional pressure, and fierce maternal love looked like when pushed past its breaking point. Your wedding, Jennifer repeated. Yes, it is. And my daughter is not your entertainment. The ballroom fell silent except for the distant sound of the orchestra tuning their instruments in the adjoining room. "It's just a tradition," Rachel began. "Whose tradition?" "Show me the etiquette book that says 8-year-olds should be humiliated for adult amusement." Jennifer's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to life and death decisions. "Show me the custom that says children exist for your guests' entertainment." Elizabeth Thompson rose from her seat, her face pale with dawning understanding. William followed, his expression thunderous. "Now see here." George Wilson stepped forward, his paternal authority ruffled. "No, Dad. You see here." Jennifer's voice broke slightly. 3 years ago, when David died, Emily lost her father. She was 5 years old, and her world ended. We rebuilt it piece by piece, note by note, because that's what parents do. We protect our children." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of Boston's elite, the symphony patrons, the museum board members, the university trustees, who claimed to care about children's welfare. "Every single one of you laughed. At an 8-year-old child. At my 8-year-old child." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "You want to know about tradition? Here's one. A mother's job is to shield her child from people who would hurt her, even if those people are family." Jennifer turned to Emily, whose tears had stopped as she watched her mother transform into something fierce and protective. "Come on, baby. We're going home." As they walked toward the exit, the only sound was their footsteps on marble and the whisper of Emily's dress. Behind them, 200 of Boston's most distinguished citizens sat in stunned silence, suddenly forced to confront the ugly truth about their own complicity in a child's humiliation. The elevator doors were closing when a hand shot out to stop them. Elizabeth Thompson stood in the gap, breathing hard from her uncharacteristic sprint across the hotel lobby. "Please," she said, her usually composed demeanor cracked. "May I speak with you?" Jennifer hesitated, Emily's hand still clasped in hers. The child's tears had dried, but the damage was written in the way she held herself, smaller, more fragile than when they'd arrived. "Mrs. Thompson, I appreciate whatever you might want to say, but what happened tonight was unconscionable." Elizabeth's voice shook with controlled anger. "Please, let me make this right." Something in her tone, raw shame mixed with determination, made Jennifer nod. 20 minutes later, they sat in Elizabeth's private study in the Thompson mansion, a room lined with first editions and family photographs spanning generations. Emily had been settled in the library next door with Coco and a cat named Beethoven, while the adults confronted the evening's wreckage. "I need you to understand something," Elizabeth began, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "The Thompson family has spent 3 generations building our reputation on the principle that privilege comes with responsibility, especially toward children who have less than we do." She gestured to the photographs on her desk, images of her at various charitable functions, always surrounded by children. "What Rachel did tonight, what my future daughter-in-law did with our implicit permission, it's everything we've claimed to stand against." William Thompson, who had arrived minutes after them, cleared his throat. "Rachel will apologize, of course. The wedding will proceed as planned, just differently. With respect, Mr. Thompson, an apology doesn't undo humiliation." Jennifer's voice was tired now, the adrenaline fading to leave behind bone-deep exhaustion. "Emily will remember this night for the rest of her life. Then we'll give her better memories to go with it." Elizabeth's voice grew firmer. "The ceremony will be completely restructured. Emily will be asked, not told, if she'd like to perform her piano piece as our honored guest musician. The reception will seat children and adults together as equals. And Rachel!" Elizabeth's expression hardened in a way that suggested steel beneath the silk. "Rachel will spend the next 6 months volunteering at your hospital's pediatric wing, learning firsthand what it means to put children's welfare first." "That's not necessary," Jennifer began. "It's absolutely necessary." William's voice brooked no argument. "Our family name has been built on integrity. Tonight, we failed that standard spectacularly." From the library came the sound of piano music, Emily playing softly, the melody she'd been practicing for weeks. But now, instead of the formal piece, she was improvising, letting her emotions flow through her fingers in a way that made all 3 adults fall silent. "She has a gift," Elizabeth whispered. "She has a heart," Jennifer corrected. "Music is how she processes pain." Elizabeth stood and walked to the window overlooking the garden, where fairy lights twinkled like earthbound stars. "I have grandchildren Emily's age," she said quietly. "If someone had tried to use them as entertainment, I would have reacted exactly as you did." She turned back to Jennifer. "You showed us something tonight that we'd lost sight of, what it really means to protect innocence." The piano music swelled slightly, Emily's confidence growing as she played in the safety of an empty room where no one could judge or use her. "The question now," Elizabeth continued, "is whether you'll give us the chance to prove we can learn from our mistakes." Jennifer looked through the doorway at her daughter, bathed in lamplight, her small hands coaxing beauty from ivory keys despite the evening's cruelty. "Emily gets to choose," she said finally. "Not about the apologies or the volunteering, that's between you and Rachel. But about the wedding, about trusting us again, that's her decision." Elizabeth nodded slowly. "Of course, as it should have been from the beginning." 3 days later, Emily sat at the same Steinway grand piano in the Langhams' ballroom, but everything else had changed. Instead of place cards marking hierarchy, round tables hosted mixed seating where children sat beside adults as equals. Instead of being relegated to a corner, Emily's piano was positioned where everyone could see and hear. Instead of a humiliating role as child server, she wore a new dress, sky blue like her favorite piece of music, and bore the title featured musician on the program. "Are you ready, sweetheart?" Jennifer knelt beside the piano bench, her voice soft with pride and lingering protectiveness. Emily nodded, her dark eyes clear and confident in a way they hadn't been for months. "I changed the song, Mom. I hope that's okay. Whatever you want to play is perfect." Rachel appeared at Jennifer's shoulder, her wedding dress as pristine as before, but her expression utterly transformed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like hard-won humility. "Emily," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something before you play." Emily looked up at her aunt with the direct gaze of childhood, not yet old enough to make things comfortable for guilty adults. "I'm sorry," Rachel continued. "What I tried to do was wrong. It was mean, and it was stupid, and it would have hurt you. Your mom was right to protect you. Why did you want to hurt me?" Emily's question was matter-of-fact, the kind of directness adults spend years learning to avoid. Rachel flinched as if slapped. I don't know. I think maybe I was jealous. Of me. Of how much your mom loves you. Of how she's willing to fight for you." Rachel's voice cracked slightly. "I've been thinking about that a lot this week." Emily considered this with 8-year-old seriousness. "Are you going to be nicer to kids now?" "I'm going to try very hard to be. Starting with the kids at the hospital where your mom works." "Good." Emily turned back to the piano, then looked up one more time. "And Rachel? The song I'm playing, it's about forgiveness. Mom taught me that music can heal things that are broken." Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but Emily had already shifted her attention to the keys, her small hands poised to create something beautiful from the wreckage of the past week. As the first notes filled the ballroom, Jennifer felt the tight knot of protective rage that had lived in her chest since that first evening finally begin to loosen. The melody Emily had chosen was indeed about forgiveness, but it was also about strength, about refusing to let others' cruelty diminish your own light. The performance was flawless, but more than that, it was fearless. Emily played with the confidence of a child who knew she was protected, valued, and loved. When the last note faded, the standing ovation felt different from typical polite applause. It carried the weight of genuine appreciation and respect. Elizabeth Thompson dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief as she approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with tonight's celebration, I want to say something about what we just witnessed. Emily Wilson has shown us the grace of a true artist and the courage of someone who chooses beauty over bitterness. But more than that, she's reminded us all what it means to treat every person, regardless of age, with dignity and respect." She looked directly at Emily. "Thank you for giving us the gift of second chances." As the reception continued, Jennifer watched her daughter navigate the party with new confidence, accepting compliments from adults who now saw her as a person rather than an accessory. Rachel stayed close to Elizabeth, already deep in conversation about her upcoming volunteer work. Near midnight, as the celebration wound down, Emily curled up against Jennifer's side in one of the hotel's plush chairs. "Mom," she whispered. Yes, baby. I'm glad we came back. Why? Emily was quiet for a moment, watching couples dance on the ballroom floor, children and adults laughing together at nearby tables. Because running away doesn't fix things. Standing up fixes things. Jennifer pressed a kiss to the top of her daughter's head, marveling at the wisdom that sometimes emerges from a child's simple understanding of right and wrong. You're absolutely right, she whispered back. Sometimes the bravest thing is staying to see if people can change. Epilogue, Christmas Harmony. 6 months later, snow fell softly against the windows of the Thompson mansion as Emily carefully adjusted a crystal ornament on the massive Christmas tree. Her movements were sure and confident, no trace of the frightened child who had fled a wedding reception in tears. Perfect, Elizabeth declared, stepping back to admire their work. Your artistic eye is impeccable, my dear. From the kitchen came the sound of laughter, Rachel's voice mixing with those of the children from the hospital's music therapy program she now ran. The advertising career was history. Her new calling involved helping children find their voices through song. The cookies are ready, Rachel called, appearing in the doorway with flower in her hair and genuine joy on her face. Emily, little Maria, finally played Twinkle, Twinkle all the way through today. She kept saying she wanted to be like Miss Emily when she gets better. Emily beamed. Can I visit her again next week? Of course. Actually, Rachel exchanged a look with Elizabeth. We've been talking about expanding the program. What would you think about teaching piano to some of the younger children? Really? Emily's eyes lit up with the same fire Jennifer had seen the night she'd stood up to a roomful of Boston's elite. Really, Elizabeth confirmed. We've learned that the best teachers are often those who understand what it feels like to need healing themselves. As Emily settled at the piano to play Christmas carols, Jennifer stood with her sister by the fireplace, both of them changed by the events that had started with humiliation and grown into grace. I never thanked you properly, Rachel said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of genuine transformation. For what? For loving Emily enough to fight for her. For showing me what real strength looks like. Rachel paused, watching her niece's hands dance across the keys. I spent so many years thinking power meant making others smaller. You showed me it means making them bigger. The piano music swelled to fill the room, not with the perfection of a trained performer, but with the honest emotion of a child who had learned that her voice mattered, that her dignity was non-negotiable, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to accept less than you deserve. Outside, snow continued to fall on Boston, covering the city in a blanket of fresh possibility. Inside, a family that had been broken by pride and cruelty was learning to rebuild itself on foundations of respect, protection, and the revolutionary idea that every person, no matter how small, deserves to be treated with dignity. The melody Emily played spoke of second chances, of love that refuses to surrender, and of the quiet heroism found in mothers who would rather stand alone than watch their children be diminished. It was a song worth learning. It was a lesson worth teaching. And it was a tradition worth starting. Sometimes the most profound changes begin with the simple courage to say no to what's wrong and yes to what's right, even when it costs us everything we thought we wanted.